Botswana is a vast country dominated by arid and semi-arid landscapes, which are extraordinarily rich in biodiversity. The northern Botswana wetland ecosystems, covering the Linyanti, Chobe Zambezi, Okavango, and Makgadikgadi, are globally renowned for their species richness.
SoER, this is the State of the Environment report. This report is produced every 2 years by the Department of Environmental Protection under the Ministry of Environment and Tourism. This report assesses the trends, the conditions, and the challenges that we face in the environment. And through this report, we are able to identify how we have fared in terms of implementation of our policies, our legislation, our strategies, and other action plans that we have. It is critical that the nation is appraised of what is happening in terms of our environment, because in terms of the pressures that we have in the environment, the nation needs to appreciate them, whether it's land or settlement expansions, whether it's issues of our climate change, whether it's biodiversity loss. It's important to know at what state are we, and in terms of how are we going to monitor this progress that is made, and also how are we able to mitigate against these pressures that we have on our environment.
Botswana recognizes these environmental challenges as serious, especially rise in temperatures, frequent droughts, and habitat loss. The government is responding through evidence-based policy planning, strengthening environmental governance, and integrating climate adaptation measures into national development initiatives. We are also prioritizing sustainable land and water management to protect our natural resources for present and future generations.
As we all know, the Africa's program, as contained in Agenda 2063, one of it is prioritized on environment development, which is also integrated in socio-economic development, transformation of the country. But secondly, we also know that Botswana is the leader, provides leadership in Africa on issues of conservation and also on development. Botswana is a mega wildlife country, and also one of the major countries with Okavango in its wetlands and other ecosystems. And therefore, the Botswana's developing a national state of environment report gives it a lead in environment reporting and also indicator tracking, on tracking progress, and also that one of course feeds into regional processes such as the African Ministerial Conference on Environment. Now Botswana holding the first African Biodiversity Summit and others which will come will show that Botswana is a leader in Africa's environment management and conservation.
Vision 2036 provides a long-term roadmap that integrates sustainable development into all aspects of national planning. Now, by aligning with the SDGs and SADC frameworks, Botswana ensures that our environmental policies, economic development, and social priorities work together. This alignment helps us address challenges like land degradation, water scarcity, and biodiversity loss in a coordinated and forward-looking way.
Botswana has very many international environment commitments, including the SDGs, the Africa We Want, and also the global frameworks such as biodiversity, chemicals, and so on. And therefore, the State of Environment report is the bridge between those international commitments and the direction the country takes at national level in terms of policy action and investments in translating those international ones into actions on the ground to help Botswana meet its international commitments.
Botswana as a country has been preparing National Development Plans, NDPs, even before independence, starting with the Transition Plan NDP-1 of 1965, which was from 1965 to 1968, and is currently on NDP-12 with a focus on sustainable use of natural resources.
The Sustainable Development Goals is an ambitious agenda adopted by United Nations member states, including Botswana. It entails 17 goals that, if countries effectively implement, they will change the lives of Botswana. For instance, Sustainable Development Goal 1 is no poverty. And you know, people who are affected by poverty, really they miss on a number of opportunities. Sustainable Development Goals seek to end poverty by 2030. Another Sustainable Development Goal is Sustainable Development Goal 7, which talks about clean and affordable energy. You know very well that energy is key towards development. Even at household level, we need energy, especially clean and affordable energy. There's the SDG 3 or Sustainable Development Goal 3, which talked about quality health. Health is critical for development. Health is critical for national personal development.
Botswana made a commendable progress during the 15-year Millennium Development Goals implementation period of the year 2000 to 2015 and managed to achieve 9 out of 12 Millennium Development Goals. For instance, a perusal of key reports to some of the conventions shows Botswana made strides in maintaining 40% of her landmass under some form of conservation area, managing to surpass the global target of 17%.
Following the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015, Botswana developed a National SDGs Roadmap. It's basically a strategic document that guides the domestication and implementation of Sustainable Development Goals across the country. Now remember, the National Development Plans are the vehicles or the tools through which we'll be implementing the SDGs as well as our vision framework. And we expect communities, we expect everybody to participate in the implementation of this. Because if you are doing that, you are also doing it for your development at household level. At what level? At what level? At village level, at district level, at national level, and at global level.
Climate change refers to long-term shifts in global temperatures and weather patterns, mainly caused by human activities such as burning fossil fuels, deforestation, and industrial emissions that increase greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. The world became aware of its dangers in the late 20th century, and in Botswana, awareness grew as rising temperatures, droughts, and shifting rainfall began to affect agriculture, water supply, and biodiversity. It is now seen as one of the country's most serious environmental challenges.
Climate change is one of the greatest challenges ever to face mankind, and it stands to hamper development. It has been found that temperatures are increasing, even in Botswana. Because of the place where we lie in the desert, we find that temperatures have been increasing significantly over the past years. And we expect these temperatures to continue rising by about 1.5, 2.5 by 2050. We've also experience extreme events. For example, we've experienced heat waves. The number of days with heat waves are increasing in Botswana. There are also extreme events related to precipitation. For example, the drought. We found that drought are increasing in frequency and in severity. When it rains, there is so much rainfall. It rains heavily and the amounts are high, causing localized flash floods.
The Department of Environmental Protection operates a number of ambient air quality monitoring stations which produce air quality data that we analyze to see whether or not limits are above set standards. We have monitoring stations in various locations in the country. We have some monitoring stations in Gaborone. We have monitoring stations in Francistown, Palape, and Silive Pigwe. There is the Atmospheric Pollution Prevention Act, enacted way back in 1971. This act requires for industries to ensure that their emissions are controlled, are reduced by putting up mitigations to ensure the reduction. The Act also requires for industries that release pollutants into the atmosphere to register with the department. That registration also allows us to set limits of emissions for those industries to abide by.
Land as a resource plays a primary role in helping the government address issues such as poverty, food security, livelihoods empowerment, and social reconstruction through conflict resolution. Therefore, land governance must support sustainable land use and development. 37% of the country has been designated for conservation and recreational activities related to wildlife. The protected areas network in the country is important as it supports livelihoods and the national economy through revenues and employment opportunities.
Our district's integrated land use plans. These are the plans that we do to zone the different land uses that we have in the country. And when we do these plans, we integrate all aspects, our socio-economic as well as the environment, because we have to take the environment into consideration. The major challenges that we have, the main one is the human-wildlife conflict. There are so many areas now that are experiencing elephants, because the wildlife, they do roam around, they just don't concentrate in protected areas. When we talk about the Botswana National Spatial Plan, the country has collaborated with our neighbors. For instance, in Chobe, we have the Kaza, where different countries have come together and they are working together, and to be able to open up corridors for wildlife to be able to roam so that we can all benefit from wildlife, even though we are different countries.
The biggest crop that's grown in Panda is grain sorghum for human consumption. This crop is very well adapted to the area, and steps that we are taking for sustainability is that we invest in new technologies, we use new varieties, we adapt to what the climate is giving us, and we want to be sure to produce sorghum here for a long time in Panda.
The Panda farmers has adapted very well to the climate changes. What we do is we try and retain our moisture after harvesting. So the quicker we can get in after the harvest, then the better we can sustain what is ever left of the soil moistures in the first place. The second place, we do crop rotation. Crop rotation is very important in Panda. You cannot keep on planting the same product. So what we change between legumes and maize and sorghum, and that also retains moisture. And also what we try and do is keep as much as residue on the fields. It's very difficult because in October month and November it's very hot in Panda, so most of your residues gets burned by the sun. The irrigation people would go more into night irrigation and not during the day, because during the day with these hot temperatures you have a lot of moisture going up in the air, and so they would irrigate through the night and not during the days.
Biodiversity means all life forms, from microorganisms to plants to animals, which form the basis for our livelihoods as human beings. What has been recognized is that we are losing many species on a daily basis globally, and because of our activities as human beings, we have become destructive to the environment. The idea is to find ways of reducing this loss of biodiversity by coming up with different measures to mitigate the challenge.
Elephant population now is at about 130,000 elephants in northern Botswana, which is the biggest in Africa by quite a long way. And then just next door is the second biggest in Zimbabwe. So yeah, they are having, no doubt, a big impact on your trees especially. If we consider what's happened on the Chobe and Linyanti, that definitely has had a massive impact on your riparian vegetation, and certain mammal species that relied on that, like Chobe bushbuck, have pretty much disappeared, because of that. We've picked up interesting things when doing vegetation surveys there of types of grasses that grow in deep forest, and now there's no deep forest there. So, the fact that we find those grasses there tells us that at one time there was deep forest there. Definitely over time I'm noticing the diversity of these trees. Little by little they're just disappearing out of these forests. So the species that rely on them are going to suffer. Some of the studies we've done, what we've looked at is how does it change as you go away from the delta, more than like 10-15 kilometers out from water. And because often elephants turn to the trees in the dry season. Their grass is their favored food in the wet season when the grasses are green. So they don't really eat trees and they don't damage trees much in the wet season. But come the dry season, then that's when they really have a big impact on your trees. And they can't get that far out from water, especially the breeding herds can't go more than about 5 kilometers from water with the small babies, because the small babies can't tolerate the heat and they dehydrate having to walk a long way from water. So the breeding herds can't go far, and the bulls, they can go further, but not much more than 10-15 kilometers. So once you're further than 15 kilometers from water, then you find much less impact on your trees. So we've had some studies, we've published papers on that. You find much taller, like say Terminalia sericea out there. They really hit Terminalia sericea very hard where it's closer to water. And there you won't find it much taller than a few meter or 2 meters high. But once you're more than 15 k's out, then you find the taller Terminalia. So I think that's a very important point now, that we need to make sure that we don't put artificial water points far out from water, which there's a lot of pressure to do for tourism, also for maybe trying to mitigate human-wildlife conflict. If we put artificial water points everywhere far out, then there's no refuge left for these trees. Elephants can access anywhere, any time of the year, and they will definitely have a big impact on those trees, and so we'll end up with no tall trees.
The National Biodiversity Authority, otherwise known as the NBDA,
It's made up of various stakeholders from various government departments, academia, and NGOs. It is a committee that acts in an advisory capacity to guide the implementation of the Convention on Biological Diversity, otherwise known as the CBD, and to drive the implementation of the CBD, the authority was instrumental in the development of the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, which we normally call the NBSAP. It is currently being revised to align it with the recent Kunming-Montreal Biodiversity Global Framework, because it came up with new targets and new objectives. So we are currently reviewing our NBSAP to align it with the new targets.
One of NBSAP's targets on wildfire states that by 2025, ecosystem integrity in Botswana's ecoregions will be protected through the adoption of the ecosystem level management approaches built around ecological processes so that they contribute to climate change mitigation and to combating desertification.
We live in an ecosystem called the savanna ecosystem here in Botswana. And one of the factors that are important in maintaining the ecosystem, the savanna ecosystem, is occasional fires, because they help to get rid of moribund grass, meaning dead grass that is no longer productive. They help to prevent bush encroachment because of their effect on woody plants. So periodic fires are okay for savanna ecosystems. But the problem that we have is that the fires now are too frequent, and so they end up destroying a lot of biodiversity. With regards to issues pertaining to wildlife, we have the community-based natural resource management, SoER, where basically you are trying to get communities to benefit from the biological resources, the biodiversity, because when they see the benefit of that, they become co-managers. They help ensure that we conserve our biodiversity when they see the benefits that they get from using those biological resources, especially in the northern part of the country, because I think because of the high biodiversity that we have there, they are the ones who actually see more returns through the SoER.
Botswana is a water-scarce country due to its low rainfalls and salinity of the groundwater resources in some areas. Both surface and groundwater resources are limited and unevenly distributed over the country. Water and sanitation are some of the key areas that the government focused on during the National Development Plan 11. Although water is a scarce resource in Botswana, there are some water bodies that provide fresh water for the population and economy. These include the 5 major river basins of Kwando, Linyanti, Chobe, Limpopo, Molopo, Makgadikgadi, and several internal seasonal rivers. Over the years, there has been several water suppliers in Botswana. The Water Utilities Corporation has been supplying towns and cities. In addition, it has been supplying the then Department of Water Affairs and district councils with bulk water for further distribution to the remaining areas in the country. Sustainable Development Goal 11, SDG 11, on sustainable cities and communities aims to renew and restore the qualities of cities and human settlements. It attempts to bring together social and economic development utilizing the natural resources to create a sustainable living environment for people, Waste management is the cycle of activities that governs how waste is handled from receipt to the final disposal, including collection, transport, treatment, and final disposal.
The State of the Environment report, Views contributed a chapter on sustainable cities and waste management, which to a large extent was more on the different types of waste that are generated in Botswana. For example, we have got solid waste, we have got mining waste, we have got agricultural waste, we have got clinical waste, and also electronic waste. So data was collected on these different types of waste, even the quantities that are produced, how much Botswana produce. And on electronic waste, this is a new type of waste, that the public has to be informed about, and also ideas shared on how to deal with electronic waste. What we can get from electronic waste is the segregation of components that are there in electronic waste. For example, we have got some different types of metals that are there in electronics. Some of these metals, they can be collected, okay, and then remelted and then reused. And then there are also some plastic components, different types of plastic components that are there in electronic waste. So the segregation of this electronic waste, so that some components can be salvaged, that is what other countries are doing or benefiting from this electronic waste. In addition to sharing ideas on safe disposal of chemicals, they also go around Palape to do some cleanup campaigns and even teach the public on safe disposal of chemicals, because some household chemicals, they can also be dangerous when they are disposed through the sewage disposal route. So, and they teach the public on disposing this waste, the segregation of the waste, metal waste, plastic waste, glassware, etc., etc.
Waste oil, it can be classified as a persistent pollutant. It consists of hydrocarbons and heavy metals that are classified as persistent pollutants. The environmental risk or impact that it has, it's to water. Firstly, waste oil contaminates water. For example, waste oil, when it comes in contact with the surface water, it can develop a scum on the surface water, that blocking the oxygen from entering water and affects the life or the aquatic life. Also, as I stated, it's a persistent pollutant. Waste oil, when it touches the ground or the soil, it degrades the environment, whereby you wouldn't have life. For example, it will affect microorganisms in the environment or the soil, and affecting plant growth, for example, grass, etc. We are existing to manage correct practices of used oil. So first and first, what we do is we elevate public awareness. SoER Trust is recognized by the Department of Environmental Affairs through the Ministry of Environment and Tourism. So we are a member to a committee within the Department of Environmental Protection, being that committee is called National Environmental Education Committee. So that's where we meet with other organizations and together with the department, other departments, relevant departments, to share ideas as to how we should elevate public awareness. So not only that, we capacitate mechanics or end oil users or used oil generators on proper handling of used oil. We have tanks located in landfills countrywide. These tanks are for public utilization, and we do not charge the public for them to dispose this their used oil. So that's basically what we do. We provide the infrastructure, we try to elevate public awareness and capacitate the end oil users or used oil generators being mechanics.
Polychlorinated biphenyls are a group of chemicals which has two benzene rings fused together and surrounded by chlorine atoms. Now, what makes these chemicals special is that they were initially used as a dielectric fluid. In other words, they were used to cool whatever instrument or equipment they were placed in. So these group of chemicals are a concern to the environment because they've been assessed or seen to be persistent in the environment. They are endocrine disrupting chemicals, and they also have been classified as cancer-causing chemicals. Botswana initially identified PCBs in 2006, and these chemicals have been listed under the Stockholm Convention as part of the initial 12 dirty dozen chemicals. With Botswana becoming party to the convention, as a country we were obligated to develop what we call a national implementation plan under the Stockholm Convention. What basically this means is that we are supposed to make a country assessment in terms of PCBs and find how much of these chemicals we have. And in the initial NIP, that assessment was made in 2007, and they were discovered in majority of electrical transformers that we use in the country. So following that, funding was availed for Botswana to now go into the second phase of the project, which is now quantify the PCBs we have in Botswana, and then after quantification, then ultimate disposal. So that exercise started in 2018, and then we are currently waiting for a disposal contractor to assist in the disposal of these chemicals. So currently in Botswana, we have about 110 tons of contaminated equipment, and this equipment has been clearly identified, labeled, and safely stored, awaiting the disposal contractor for packaging, because packaging of this equipment has to be done in UN-approved equipment, and after packaging they will be sent to South Africa for disposal, which should be concluded by end of Q1 2026.
Humans coexist in a complex interdependent relationship with wild animals as they depend on them for food, livelihoods, and well-being, as well as with the environment. The interface between humans, animals, and the environments they share can also be a source of diseases. In northern Botswana, the Okavango Delta and Chobe National Park are hotspots of zoonotic diseases due to the animals living in these transfrontier conservation areas.
One might wonder, why do we need to study mosquitoes? Mostly we study mosquitoes as a way to curb the mosquito-borne disease transmission. I will give an example of Anopheles arabiensis. This is a mosquito species that is notorious for feeding indoors and outdoors. And also it can even change hosts from human beings to dogs to wild animals to cows and stuff like that. So in the presence of a pressure that is against its survival, the mosquito on its own is capable of adapting. That is my take on that. I don't really know why we need to conserve mosquitoes, but based on the fact that they also play a role in the ecosystem as being food for other aquatic organisms, there is that point that there is need to actually conserve them. How, that is something I need to look into.
Botswana has made solid progress in conservation and sustainable development, guided by Vision 2036, of course, and strong policy frameworks. However, the report shows that land degradation biodiversity loss and climate impacts are increasing, meaning progress is real but fragile. We must try to strengthen implementation and coordination in order to sustain these gains. If we maintain current trends, ecosystem health and resource productivity will obviously decline. This could affect key sectors such as agriculture and tourism, increase community vulnerability, and slow our path towards sustainable development. You know, with stronger investment in smart farming, renewable energy, community benefit sharing, and effective policy implementation, Botswana can enhance resilience, protect biodiversity, and build a greener economy, securing prosperity for current and future generations.